Okay, I'm just setting up the live stream. Please bear with me for a moment or two. Shouldn't be long. Just setting up the second screen so I can watch if there's any comments along the way. Okay, so we are taking a look this evening at the Carenado Beechcraft C90GTx King Air, the one that is bundled with Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. And anybody that's looked at it will realise that it's quite deficient in terms of the checklists that come with it. So I've been looking through it and going through some of these checklists and filling in the blanks and putting some of the things in a slightly better order. And I've written up my own functional checklist to get the airplane up and running in a semi-sensible manner. So we're going to go and work through the checklist that I've written up. We'll take it for a little flight. So I've got LittleNavMap running in the background, and I've got a very basic flight plan here. So we're taking off from Bryan in Mississippi, and we're going to go via a VOR and a couple of waypoints just to try out the autopilot and try things out along the way. And hopefully land over at Huntsville Executive over in Alabama, next door basically. So bit of a random flight in the middle of nowhere, but it's really about the aeroplane rather than the scenery. So I've no doubt the scenery will be beautiful because this part of the US absolutely is. But we'll see how we get on. So it's, as I said, it's really about the aeroplane. So let's go and have a look. So we can do the walk around, and we can go and I'll go and walk around the wing first. So obviously, because this is one of the ones that came bundled with the sim, it's got all the various bits and pieces on it for you to go and remove. It looks like there's something on the tail over there as well. I don't know if that's just something that's painted orange or... I have noticed you can't click on the covers on the sides of the engines, but when you remove the inlet covers, it does remove the exhaust covers. So then go and get rid of the pitot covers. Oh, we got an engine cover open. I must have clicked that by accident somewhere along the way. How do we get rid of that then? Interesting. How have I managed to do that? Is there a switch up here to get to it? Interesting. It's always the way, isn't it? There's always something. Do we have to come right around here and click on it maybe? Is this for checking oil? Oh, there we go. I just have to click underneath it. I'm just going to check the volume levels as well, make sure you can hear me. Yep, looks like that's fine. And we're just going to go and have a look at the tail, make sure we haven't got any other covers anywhere that we haven't spotted. I don't think there are. I'm just looking at the colour of this. No, okay. There's nothing hidden in the aeroplane. Okay, so we've covered off everything we need to do, so let's go and jump inside. So I have written a functional procedure that will take us through everything we need to do around the aeroplane. But before we do that, it's probably worth having a little look around the aeroplane ourselves. So we can go and wander around the cabin and have a look. It's really, really nicely modelled. I'm surprised just how good it is, actually. I guess we should come to expect this sort of thing from if Carenado are involved, because they tend to make things that look photographic. And yes, they might not be, you know, the highest fidelity systems modelling, but I think they aim for accessible aircraft that most people can have some fun with, rather than it being, you know, only the domain of the professional real-world pilots will get any fun out of it. Okay, so shift and space will give us our default cockpit view. Let's go and work around the airplane and get things up and running. So pre-flight, we're going to press shift and 4 to go down to the pilot instrument panel, and we're going to turn the standby battery on, so that's here. So SFDS. Then we're going to turn the batteries on, and then put the nav light on just to tell people outside that we are in the airplane and doing things. And we're going to prepare to start the engines immediately, basically, so we have power while we're sat here. You'll see that the screen with the engines on and the navigation system does actually come up, and it will align itself. So I think by the time this spins round, it will suddenly get inertial alignment and lock in. There it goes. Okay, so it's a bit like a countdown timer. So we're going to go and put the beacon light on straight away because we're going to start the engines. No, not that switch. You can see here there's a bit of a problem there with the, if you go for the beacon light, it actually hits the gear switch. Okay, so Shift and 5 gives us the propeller controls, and we want to advance the propellers all the way. I've mapped that to a control, so I've got that on my controls. I've got the power here. I haven't got the fuel shut off, but you don't really need it because you leave it in high idle while you're flying and low idle while you're on the ground. But we put the propellers all the way forwards. So then we're going to go over to the fuel controls. There's no default view for this, so you end up scooting around the cockpit to do everything. We're going to go and put the boost pumps to on. Then we're going to go Shift 4. And well, I think I might do this actually for demonstration purposes. I'm going to do this and just pop the yoke off so we can see everything. So what we're going to do is go and turn the right ignition on, and you will see N1 will start climbing. When it gets past 11 or 12%, we are allowed to advance the fuel condition lever on the right engine to low idle. So you can see, if you look outside, you'll see the propeller start to spin up. Have we actually got any sound out there? I'm just wondering if this is the well-known sound bug. No, I think it's okay. So once you get past 50%, you can turn off the ignition system, and the engine will be fine. And I'm just checking through my list. So, and then we can go and do the generator. So I'm not going to go to high idle until we're on the runway. So we can go and put generator 2 to reset. This is a bit of a bug. It really should flick up to reset and fall back to on. So they've not really implemented that very well. Anyway, same for the other engines. So turn the ignition on. You'll see the N1 climb. As soon as it gets past about 11%, we can advance to low idle. Then you wait for it to get to 50%. I think we might have the same bug, you know. There we go. And then we can turn the ignition off. And the engine will carry on up all on its own. Do you know, I think that is the sound bug. I don't know, that actually sounds okay, doesn't it? I can't hear much of the engines. Anyway. I don't know if any of you have seen that you can, the sound bug is pretty awful actually. You don't ever hear anything from the engines. So once we've started the other engine, obviously we can go and put the generator on for the left engine. Again, it should go up to reset and fall back to on. So once you have done that, we can go and put the trans pumps to auto. We'll leave boost pump on during takeoff. You could turn it back off again while you're just messing around on the ground and then put it back on when you're at takeoff. I'm going to leave it on. So we're going to go and put avionics master switch on, which will switch the rest of the screens on. And then we're going to go and program our flight. So Shift and 6 will bring us over to the central pedestal. So it's saying initialize position. So we go pos init and we set pos to GNSS and that populates it. And then we can go through to flight plan.
System test.
That's the avionics just lighting up in the rest of the airplane. So we've got airport here. We can't actually fill that. So we go flight plan. So it's a little bit simplified in here. So let's go and have a look at our routes that we're proposing. So I'm just going to drag this down a bit so we can see the whole route. KSTF Brian. So Kilo Sierra Tango, if I can find it, Foxtrot. So into the scratch pad and then drop it into Origin. And then we'll put in our destination, Kilo Mike Delta Quebec. Kilo Mike Delta Quebec, which is Huntsville Executive. About 140 miles. If we got any en route waypoints, we can either do them here as part of the route, or we can put them into the legs page afterwards. So we do want to go via a couple of waypoints. So OTB and then Echo. Let's just make this a bit wider so you can see it. So let's go and try it. So if we just put OTB in, just to see if this works. Otherwise we can just put it into the legs page. So we'll drop that in there. And it's going direct to OTB, and then it shows page 1 of 2, which is absolutely correct. And then we want to go direct to EECHO. So EECHO. And I hope we got too many E's on there. I think my mouse is on its way out. I need to go and buy a new one. And drop that in 2, and it'll do direct, obviously, because I'm not using Airways, and press execute. So that's set up our flight plan. If we go and look in the legs page, you can now see that. So KSTF, OTB, EECHO. Bizarrely, it doesn't put the last bit in, but I think that's because you have to put departure and arrival in. So we're going to be departing on, let's go and have a look. I'm not taking much notice of the wind today. It keeps swirling around a little bit. So we'll be taking off directly north out of here, so runway 36. And there are no departure procedures, so execute that. Come back to the index, go to the arrival for the destination, and we're going to be coming in on the ILS for, what is it, runway 18, yes. So ILS for runway 18. We are not going to bother with any of the, or I don't think we are. Oh, there's an Erove one. Okay, we'll use Erove for the transition and press execute. And then if we go and look in legs, we can see obviously there's a couple of discontinuities in here because we haven't got a proper route. So we can go and clear out the discontinuity there. So OTB, EECHO, Erove, there's a hold at Erove, that's interesting. We'll leave it in, see what it looks like when we get there. That's obviously part of the Erove transition, I guess. And then the rest of it's fine all the way in. I'm surprised it's actually got holds for a stock aeroplane. There you go. So we've got the programming of the basic route in. We need to go and do the performance data, so we can do perf init. You can get to this via the normal route if you follow the kind of the wizard route through the bottom right corner of the screen as you're doing things. So what altitude are the runways at around here? If we pull up the profile in LittleNavMap, we can see, so we need to be about 2,000 feet. Obviously this is going to have very little bearing on the aeroplane for this very basic route, but there we go. I just thought before I've done any of this, I haven't checked how much fuel we've got. So there's a couple of ways you can do the fuel in the new sim. This is the easiest way. If you go into flight performance and mass and balance, you can set fuel in here. So we got the main tanks and then the cells. So let's go and put some more. I guess we just have to click in here about 50 times. So we'll take that up to 50. And we'll take this side up to 50. And load that into the aircraft. So it's hardly made any difference, but it's interesting to see. It's nice to see the heat pouring down the side, isn't it, with the new kind of molecule physics, if you want to call it that. Let's get rid of that warning. So you can see now we've got flight plan is illustrated on the navigation display now, which is good. We've done the departure arrival information, we've done the legs, we've done the performance data. So let's go and have a look at the mode control panel. And we're just going to go and basically set our target altitude. So we want to go to 2,000 feet, so we're looking over here. You can see the pitot heat warnings are there. They'll switch off in a moment. That's part of the procedure to get the airplane ready. You typically don't turn the pitot heat on until you're within a minute or so of the runway, because you can cook them. Or you can on older aeroplanes. I'm not sure if modern ones have protection in place to stop that from happening. What are we looking at? So, set the initial heading as required. So if you're going to be using autopilot fairly quickly, you might want to go and set your heading. We're going north anyway, so 360 is absolutely fine. Speed, I don't think this has auto throttles. Something you can play with on the way. So speed would be for flight level change configuration, you know, to set the speed that you want to climb or descend at. So we'll leave that alone. We could, are we allowed? Yes, we're allowed to pre-select then our configuration of the autopilot. So we'll say we'll climb out at 1,000 feet a minute, and we'll go nav mode. Will it let us? Yeah, so it's saying roll, so we could say heading with LNAV1 as the backup, so it's going to use heading as far as it can, or until it picks up the route, and then it will switch automatically, or that's the plan. So our vertical speed is 1,000 feet a minute up to 2,000, so that's all looking good. We need to set the barometric pressure, so we'll press comment on the keyboard. There's a shortcut to do that. Okay, so I think we're pretty good to go. So down in here we can go and turn the taxi lights on and set the flaps required for takeoff. Test the primary flight controls, so let's just press shift and space, and yep, that's working, and we can look outside and see things waggling around, and the rudder pedals appear to work. Okay, so we're going to go and hopefully taxi out. So let's go and have a look at the runway at Bryan. So we would need to turn right immediately and go off down the taxiway, have a play at taxiing. So off the parking brake, and we're gently rolling forwards already. So I'm going to press Alt and 7, which will turn my head tracking on, which will give us nice visibility. So we're deliberately leaving the fuel on, or the condition levers on low idle at the moment, and we'll switch over to high idle when we're on the start of the runway. And we'll put the pitot heat on when we get there as well. Okay, can we get through this way? Should we have a quick look on the map? Yeah, it looks like it. So it kicks back left. And we can get back down to the end of the runway without having to backtrack on the runway. So obviously this is a stock airport. That's half the reason I choose some of these airports, is to see what the stock ones look like in kind of fairly random places. So this is Bryan in Mississippi. So obviously this has been built by the AI, because there's no way they would have handcrafted all of these little municipal airports, is there? It's pretty cool though that you can see all the twigs on the trees these days, isn't it? And the placement of the lights on the taxiways seems to be a bit better than it used to be. They've actually put them off in the grass and not on the edges of the path. Although saying that, look, we've got some coming up. They're in the middle of the path. So yeah, they still have got some work to do with that then. So let's do intersection takeoff here. We don't need the whole runway. Okay, so we've got a whole raft of things to go through now while we're sat here. We could have done a run-up test, but we haven't. It's a turboprop, so the reasons for doing that are a little bit different. But anyway, turn the head tracking off for a moment so we can see what we're doing. So we're going to go for high idle now on the engines, and you'll see the numbers coming up. we're going to go and sort out the pitot heat. So let's pop the yoke off a moment. Pitot heat's down here in the ice protection section. I'm going to go and put the rest of the lights on, so landing lights on, recognition lights on, and the strobe light as well. And then we're going to go and turn on or arm the auto feather. It's actually reversed. You have to roll the mouse wheel down to get it to go up. So they've programmed it backwards, which is kind of interesting. So we're actually sat here on the ground with the lights lit up. I think the engine bug is in evidence. All we can hear is the propellers, not the engines, which is kind of fascinating. But at least you can hear me over the top of it for a change, hey? So shift space brings us back out. We've got the auto feather light just showing us that it's on, basically. So let's come off the parking brake, advance the throttles through. Obviously it's a Carenado, so you're not going to really be able to stress the engines, I don't think. As I said, they kind of tried to make their aeroplanes as accessible as possible. Should we go back for... Whoa. Just turning the head tracking back on so we can actually look around as we take off. So you need to rotate about 85 knots normally. I've gone far too fast there on the takeoff roll. So gear up. It does look incredible in this new sim, doesn't it? So I'll just hand fly for a little while, just to get a hang of it. So coming up through 800 feet, let's trim the elevators. It's quite nose heavy. There we go. Plane's almost flying itself now. So we've got a landing taxi light. So we can turn the taxi light off, but pretend we're not a commercial flight, so I'll turn our landing lights off now as well. And we can turn the auto feather off as well, just to get rid of the light before it annoys us too much. So let's go and try this out then. So let's steer back towards, oh, we've gone a bit high. So we were going to fly at about 2,000 feet, weren't we? So should we adjust that up a bit? It's not going to hurt anything. So 2,500 feet. So let's go and put the autopilot on. So it was nav mode and altitude hold. So it should be fairly near where it needs to be. It's just straightening up, look, to come onto the path. So it seems to work. So what about the engines? So it said about 1900 on the prop RPMs for the climb, but we're not climbing anymore, so we could bring that back. Actually, I can do it with my controls, can't I? Just watching the speed to see what we can get away with. It's not coming up to the altitude, is it? Should we go... let's have a play with it. Vertical speed. Just told it to climb gently up towards 2,500. It's dropped to 2,000, doesn't it? Maybe that's because it was the original height we set. We have to push it, do we? Interesting. Do we have to? Oh, do we have to go outside of 1,000 feet of? I'm going to turn head tracking off. Let's try and take it up to 3,000 feet, maybe. So altitude hold 3,000. Okay, you have to. This is the reverse. So down is up, if that makes sense. So we're coming up to 3,000 feet, hopefully. So if we tell it to come up at 1,500 feet a minute. So it's just doing that. So it's climbing, and you'll see the target move down. I don't like that this doesn't have the thousands on the gauge, but I guess you've got the number there. Okay, let's have another play. Something else I don't like is the buttons for the navigation display are way back here, which is absolutely maddening. I do not like that at all. Can we do anything with these buttons to change? There's the range, okay. Okay, so rolling clockwise has increased the range. Good. So does this allow us to use the buttons as well to go into the menus? Oh, you can set refs. This is actually a bit of a wolf in sheep's clothing, isn't it? There's a lot more in here than first appears. So there's the FMS, which is the GPS. So you can choose what you display on here as well as what you show over here. Very cool. Yeah, so this is my first time flying the aeroplane. I've not done a test flight before. You're seeing me finding this aeroplane out with you. Obviously, I've flown the old King Air in 2020 and the Black Square King Air, which is a different animal entirely because it's all analog. So this is a bit of a mystery at the moment. It's a shame that this panel is so far away and we can't get the view down there either easily. So if we do this, because what I'm trying to show you here is if we go menu and look up, it's got tons of functionality hidden inside it. So I wonder, can we... No, that's just doing the range and tilt. What about menu advance? Does that mean I can get the menu up? No. That's really frustrating. So I wonder if this is programmable, that you could put it on a Stream Deck or something. Because yeah, as you can see, once you get into it, you can actually move the cursor around this. There's pages and pages of configuration if it's the same system they built for the previous simulator. Have we got a sudden burst of crosswind going on? Or are we just not following the plan? What's going on? We're in roll hold mode. Where I've been pressing buttons, I've obviously broken the aeroplane off of its route. So we'll go heading mode. Tell it to go back to the course we should have been on. You can see this is always the problem, isn't it? When you're playing around with an aeroplane and you're not sure if you press something what you've actually done. So I'm taking the hit for you and figuring a lot of this stuff out. So we want a bit more on the heading bug to come back towards our course. It's a shame you don't get an HS or a CDI on FMS mode. I wonder, there's VOR mode. It's going towards OTB. Maybe that isn't doing what I think it's doing. No, it's counting down, look, 25 miles to the next waypoint. Oh, it is working now. Okay. It just took a moment to wake up. So that's showing our deviation from the GPS course. So if we were to put ourselves on a more of an intercept heading, you'll see the CDI come in a moment. You can see obviously the rotation, and if we drop the range down, here comes the course, and you should see the CDI come edging in a moment. And if we go to nav mode, when we get near it, the aeroplane should capture it on its own. Famous last words. Yeah, look, it's moving gently. So if we go to nav mode, see if it can capture from a distance. So it's doing heading and nav. So I imagine it would have to run over the course to pick up lateral navigation. Let's see what happens if you keep an eye on this and the CDI. When it's within 1 dot maybe. There it goes, yeah. About just outside 1 dot it did it. Okay, so we'll leave it trudging along, and let's go and have a look outside, see what the airplane looks like. I've not actually looked at it really. They've rebuilt it, haven't they? It's got panel lines in it now that it didn't have before, where it's expanded and contracted, I guess. Where all the screw holes are. Very cool. As I said, I think we're not hearing the engine noises. I think the engine bug in the sim has shown its head. Because I did a restart of the flight in order to start recording. Because I've been busy working through writing up the documentation. So if I go and show you what I've been working on while we're flying along, if I go to drive.google and search for, what's it called? The King Air. This is the original document that I've just put up on Ko-fi for people to go download. There's 8 pages of it. There's a page showing you the views, there's the walk around pre-flight, and then everything you need to do with all of the default view keys to get to those bits of the cockpit, what to click on, what to press, how to do it, how to interact with it, and a few notes about aircraft performance. So yeah, makes it a lot easier. People often ask me, how on earth do I remember how to fly the planes? I don't. I follow my own instructions. And often it brings back enough memory that I can remember it. No, so someone's saying they can hear the engines. I think that's just the sound of the propellers. I'm not sure. Because Carenado, or sorry, Asobo, tend to force the developers to have very quiet engines anyway. So that might be part of it. So we're flying in towards a VOR. Should we go and try it? 109.80. So, where do we set the radios in this thing? There's COM 1, okay, there's nav 1. So, 109.80. So do we have to select that first? Yes. 109.80. And then transfer it over here. That's it. So then if we change this over to FMS mode, which will kill the autopilot, remember, that's what killed it earlier, we can change the course to point at the VOR and go nav mode again. So we're now chasing the VOR signal. It's gone green instead of magenta. So we're now getting the distance countdown for the distance measuring equipment, or at least I think so. And then we've got GPS over here, so it's slightly different. Look, the waypoint is not in the same place as the beacon. Interesting. Or at least the reading is different. Why that might be is a mystery to me. So you can see there's the waypoint coming up. Again, it's a shame that all these buttons are way back here, because in the configuration of this you can switch on and off the details, the overlays. I don't think it's a touchscreen, no. So we could be showing the waypoints and, you know, the beacons and so on. But it's a real faff to have to keep looking backwards and forwards. I think in later models that panel is right under here. you know, next to the navigation display, so it's very easy. We're still in roll hold mode. Look, it didn't pick up nav. Because we're flying away from the direction, I guess. So if we go heading mode, and let's see if it'll do the same trick. Maybe you have to be on an intercept for it to pick up. So it's heading VOR1. If we fly over it, will it pick it up and track VOR1 for us? Maybe it won't. No, it doesn't look like it's going to. So maybe that's not it. Maybe it's not either. It's not implemented, or the real airplane can't do it. I would tend to side on it's not implemented, but you never know. So should we switch this back to GPS and just say nav mode, please, LNav, and it's gone straight to LNav, look, because we're close to the line. So it's just intercepting back onto it, so then it will turn left again. It'll be interesting to see what it does when it gets to the waypoint, whether it overflies it or cuts off the corner. So let's reduce the range on this a bit so we can see the approach. That's the lowest range we can get. I just want to see if it turns right before we get there or not. It's not illustrating a right turn, but who knows. So it's counting down. Is it going to go to the next leg now? There it goes, and it's going to start turning now. Okay, so it did cut the corner. Good to know. It's just good to see how these things behave, isn't it? So we are on our way off across the countryside now after our bit of a testing session. Should we take it up to a bit higher altitude just to see how everything works? So if we take it out to say 7,500 or 8,000 feet, 7,500, and we'll do a level change to get there. And then we can choose the speed. So we'll say climb at 160 knots, but we're going to give you some more RPM and some more power. And you can see that directly affecting the climb rate. So it's hanging on to the same speed, but using the excess power to climb. So although it's called flight level change mode in this aeroplane, it appears to be like the indicated airspeed mode of, or speed mode of lots of others. It's interesting how different aeroplanes have different, what's the word, nomenclature for these things. Also, we obviously have got vertical speed mode. You've got VNav as well. I'm not sure if it works. I've not programmed anything into the flight plan for it though, so. I'm not sure you can. Let's go and have a look. So, is it got a VNav button for the parameters for it? If we go to the index page, what can we play with? Oh, this route's got a hold on it, hasn't it, later? It's the route menu. Interesting. So there might be all sorts of hidden bits and bobs in here. Fixes. So there's this. Oh, we can draw radiuses. Interesting. So we're looking at. Let's increase the range on the map. We're flying off towards Icho. So let's have a play with this then. So will it work? If we put in EECHO as our reference, and we want to do that's radial, isn't it? That's a radial line, and this will be a distance from it. So we'll put a 20-mile. And it's done it. Very cool. So we know when we cross 20 miles towards Icho. So we should be able to do different angles as well. So say we wanted to come in towards Icho at say we're saying at the moment radial we're crossing it at is 256 degrees. Or I guess that's the angle from Icho to us, isn't it, looking at the compass there. So say we wanted 240 instead. Let's see what it does. Will it let me change it? It won't, will it? Oh, it will. So there's the 240 degree radial in. So if we went to 80 instead, it should skip to the other side. There we go. Can we do both? So 280 and a 20 mile... No. If you go for radius, it sets it the direction you're coming in. Which I guess it's your closest approach, isn't it, on the radius of the circle. Or the perimeter of the circle, I should say. Very cool. I like that. I wasn't expecting it to have that sort of functionality in an aeroplane that's not, you know, the most advanced in the world. But like I say, Carenado are very good at making accessible aeroplanes. I believe this is made by Carenado. When I was looking through the files, it appeared to be. And it certainly has their kind of quality about it. You know, the switchgear and the internals of the cockpit just look photographic, don't they? It's stunning how they do this sort of thing. It's just boggles the mind. So we got about 30 miles until we get to Icho. So we're flying out across just coming over the border of Mississippi into Alabama. And then we'll skip just into the edge of Tennessee before we turn in for the approach into Huntsville. So I'm going to put it outside, I'm going to go make a coffee. Get to see some of this. There's hardly a cloud in the sky today. I've got it on live weather. We didn't pull the RPM back, did we? Slow the aeroplane down a bit. It can go quite a lot faster than this. I'm just playing along to see what it can do, really. Or what it will do. Obviously, as you reduce the RPM, you up the torque. It's a funny old relationship between the various parameters with the turboprop. Just having a look and see what sort of switches we've got here. So, auto ignition for the engines, we've got auto feathering, which you only use during takeoff and landing as far as I'm aware. You've got the backup battery there that we've got on, battery, the generators. Bus ties, I've not played with them yet, so I don't know if a lot of this is implemented even. I'm sure, yeah, the breakers aren't implemented. There's our fuel. It's got the booster pumps. And you've got automatic transfer between the various fuel tanks. So we've got temperature gauges here. So this is free air temp. So it doesn't appear to switch between Fahrenheit and centigrade, which is a bit of a shame, but not the end of the world. So what do we get on the screen here? We see distance and ETA or ETE, estimated time of arrival at the waypoint, isn't it? Not ETE, that would be time for the leg. Well, I guess that's 8 minutes, isn't it? It's estimating, it's not doing it to the second. So it's saying 37 minutes until we get to the destination. Very good. I'm super impressed with this. For an aeroplane that comes with the sim, it's very, very good. And I'm quite happy that my procedure seems to be correct, seeing as this is the first time I've looked at it properly. Quite often I make slight mistakes in the procedures and have to go back and edit them as I work through them and realise, oh, hang on a minute, that isn't, oh, this is the wrong order, or so on and so forth. And sometimes real pilots come back to me, and I often have this very odd discussion with the real pilots saying, well, yeah, I know that's what you might do in the real thing, but it's not actually implemented, so we can't. Or it's, you know, it's massively simplified maybe, which is a real shame sometimes. But it's been super interesting actually. I've had real pilots send me emails that haven't got Flight Simulator and have actually been bowled over with how good it is. Even with the, even with the airplanes that aren't super accurately simulated, they are bowled over to the point that several of them have asked me for details to go buy a PC to go and get a computer that can run Flight Sim. It's been quite amusing when that happens, because it's sort of given them the bug. They've probably been retired for a while. Yeah, so just looking at the comments there about Carenado in the about them making accessible aeroplanes. I don't think there's any problem with making accessible aeroplanes because you know what you're getting. And this is one that comes with the sim, so they don't want to make it so unapproachable that you can destroy the engines within 2 minutes of trying to start them. You know, which with a more accurate plane you might do that and you'd get the chip. I don't know if it's got the lights up here. You can see some of them have been implemented. Yeah, the top row, look, is probably where the chip detect and things like that is going to be, and it just hasn't been done. But you wouldn't expect them to. Or any of those kind of more. Actually, would you get a chip detect in the turboprop? Maybe not. Or maybe you would on the gears if you overtorqued it or something. But yeah, it would be. It's going to be fascinating because obviously Black Square are busy working on their aeroplanes for 2024. So have we got a test button? Yes, we have. Does it light everything up? Yeah, there's lots of them that have got nothing on them. So let's zoom in and see what we can see that we have got. So we can do ice fails, which oh, there is a chip detect. I didn't spot that before. So maybe you can overstress the engines. I'm not going to do it on purpose because then we won't get to our destination, but interesting. But yeah, obviously you can see there's a lot that are not used that may well be in the real thing. So what they have implemented, they've put in here by the look of it. There we go. Right, I'm going to go and grab that coffee. I'll leave us in the cockpit. So if I zoom us across so we can watch our co-pilot keeping an eye on the aeroplane for a few minutes. I'll be back in a bit. Right, I'm back. So I have coffee. Very important. Shall we see where we are on the built-in avionics? So we've just gone through Icho, and we're continuing on down 67 miles to Erove, and we turn in at Erove towards... Now there was a hold, wasn't there? Because we chose the Erove transition, and it just so happens that the Erove transition had a hold in it. So let's go and load that up on Navigraph and have a look at it. So we'll nick our route from here, flight plan, copy it, unload this, make a new flight plan, and there you go, and paste the route in, get rid of the speed and altitude. So there's the basic route. Obviously that hasn't got the approach on it, so Huntsville Executive, so we'll go and select a runway 18 and we'll select the ILS runway 18 with, it hasn't got a road. Interesting. But Erove has got the hold on the RNAV. Okay, that makes sense. So we come in and then it's got this hold pre-programmed. How's it going to do the entry into the hold then? If this is, unless this is rendered wrong, let's have a look at the actual chart. So will it fly over Erove and then come diagonally back across the hold? We may have chosen a horrible route that an aeroplane, unless it's like a study level plane with study level avionics, might not be able to make any sense of it. We may end up removing that hold out of the plan. We'll see. So Jess Phillips says, hello, I'm having a bit of an issue where I bought the Premium Deluxe Edition of 2024 and the extra planes aren't showing up. No idea, I'm afraid. I don't work for Microsoft or Asobo, so I've not heard of anybody else having that problem. I know there was some sort of sync job, but I thought that was to do with previous purchases. So shortly after installing, it would tell you that your aeroplanes were ready and you could restart the sim. I can't think of any other reason though why it might not be showing you everything that you've bought. Right, so should we do, now we know how these fixes work, shall we have a play with putting something at Erove? So if can we just clear a fix? Yeah. So E-R-O-V, I'll remember the alphabet one day. let's put a 20-mile dotted circle around Erove. And then we should see it. Here it comes, look, coming into view. Very cool, I like that. I mean, you expect to see that sort of functionality in a 737 or a big Airbus, but you don't expect to see that in little passenger planes. That's lovely that it can do those sort of tricks. The new lighting model is very, very good, isn't it? I seem to have picked the most still day I can ever remember. There's hardly a breath of wind. Have we got any wind showing up in LittleNavMap? Oh, it's 15 knot tailwind. But yeah, it's directly behind us, which is why we're not being moved around, I guess. So if we have a look down below us, we're at 7,500 feet. can see the fields whistling by. See, that's only got low resolution for the fields around here. That's probably because we're at this altitude. So let's drop back down then to 2,500 feet. So to do that, we need to go to the altitude selector and move our target to, say, 2,500 feet. We'll use vertical speed this time just to try it out. Coming down at 1,000 feet a minute. So you can see the airspeed creeping up there. And we'll let that continue on down for a little while. Actually, we're nowhere near the performance limits of the aeroplane. That's come down at 2,000 feet a minute. And it won't take so long, will it? I just want to get down to a lower altitude to have a look outside and see if it changes the rendering of the ground. I think it probably will. So yeah, this version of the C90, it seems to work really nicely. It's quite forgiving because, like we said, it's not super realistic. But I think once Black Square arrive with their analog King Air, it'll be game over for everybody else, won't it? I had a quick look earlier at the A300, the INI builds, the what do they call it? Professional version, is it called? The 2024 specific version. It's got tyres that flex. When it's sitting there on the ground, the tyres are depressed, and they are individually modelled. So as the aircraft comes in on a landing, and if you're swaying as you come in, you can see the tyres ripping around on, independently on each truck. So that's going to make landings much more fun. So I'm almost itching to go and grab the A300, but obviously lots of people wanted to see this first, so I've spent my evening writing up the procedure for this to get it started easily. So there's that hold look. How is it? Oh, it is going to do an overhead join look. Can you see? So it's going to do what I imagined it might not be able to do. It's going to go through a rove, turn left, and then start following the hold. You can see it hasn't drawn the whole circle. We'll zoom in. Oh, I'm presuming that's what it's going to do. I'll zoom in when we get a bit closer. So I've got the Chinook from 2020 in my virtual hangar that I could go use. I think it's already usable in the sim. And there's obviously one built in, isn't there, as well? So I'm not sure which version you see. I'm guessing it's the one that's built in because of the various missions, like Medevac. So we're at 2,500 feet now. Yeah, it's updated the scenery below us, hasn't it? You can see when we get back over the grass. Because it's higher resolution. Is that animals down there? Something in the field, isn't there? Oh, it's bales. Yeah, I noticed that a lot. You see a lot of bales in fields in the sim. Well, I imagine it's bales. It's not going to be cows, is it? Can you imagine if they went and put cows in the sim and you had some dairy farms out this way? It'd be ridiculous, wouldn't it? It'd be thousands and thousands of them. Okay, so we are getting closer. We're about 30 miles out from Airove. Should we go and program the ILS in while we have time? We can see ourselves coming in over here. So it's 109.75, 185 degrees on the course. 109.75. Can we set the course? No, we can't, look. That's annoying, isn't it? You can never set the course when you're in GPS mode. it won't show you it. So you can't pre-select it. Anyway, but then I guess for ILS you don't need to. It should pick it up automatically. 10975, wasn't it? Yeah. So 109. So we press this button, which puts a box on. Then we can set the frequency. Then we press this one to transfer it across. So we've got nav1 set to the ILS frequency. Not that we need it. It's a lovely clear day, but it's fun to play with the instruments, isn't it? Just to make sure they work. So we'll just press the button over here, which changes the CDI mode when we're a bit closer. And interesting, what is that doing? Oh, is that illustrating? Does the dotted line represent the lock 1? Even though we're in FMS mode. I don't understand that. But then why are we still seeing FMS? What would illustrate here that we are in FMS mode, other than, or that this is the ghost of the nav radio? Because that's absolutely what it is. So we get some options here about TCAS as well, by the look of it. Terrain radar. Oh my word. So terrain. So that's terrain view. So obviously that will colour code, and we're in the flattest landscape you could imagine, so we're not going to see anything interesting. So we'll leave it on radar mode. Format. Okay, so you get to choose either the full rows, the arc mode, or plan, I guess. Interesting. Yeah, I'm just reading the live stream comments there. Yeah, no doubt it's to help with obviously orientation on intercept, but I just wondered how the logic works with what appears on the buttons. Because normally this would say the mode you're in, which would be FMS. Anyway, I'm not going to get too heads up about it. So we're about 25 miles from the beginning. Should we go and build a range down on the navigation display so we can see this? Yeah, so we can see. Yeah, it's got a weird. I'm not sure this is right, you know, but we'll find out. I'm inclined to remove the hold because we don't need to do it. Still can't quite see that. I guess if we knew what all the buttons were, we could go into plan mode, zoom in, and go and have a look at the hold. But we're not. Leave it alone. I'm not sure how well it works either, with messing around with modes and zoom levels and waypoints selected. I imagine you have to go through the legs page to do it, to step through. if indeed it will let you do that sort of trick. Oh, I see. I'm just reading the live stream comments. So that's what you get if you press it. So we're in FMS mode. It will go to localizer. Let's try it just briefly then. So if I just line up my heading mode first, or heading bug, with the direction we're going, so we don't have anything untoward happen, we'll put ourselves into heading mode on the autopilot. Okay. And then we'll start pressing this and see what happens. So FMS. Oh, yes. Okay. So it goes to that mode. And that is the mode it's in. That makes sense. Good to clear that one up. It's funny, isn't it? When these new aeroplanes arrive, and slightly foreign systems maybe, it's a bit of a group effort without any documentation to figure out exactly what buttons do what. It's funny how many times people ask me questions about how a particular airplane works and they just expect me to know. I have to disappoint them quite often. What's the estimated time? ET, should we go find out? It's just a timer. It's a chronograph, isn't it? So if you're wanting to time hold or something like that, you've just got a counting chronograph that you can use. I notice there's no clock, or not obvious. Oh, it's down. There's a UTC down in the bottom corner here. Okay, so can we switch that as well? If we go, no, that button doesn't do anything. So only the ones with arrows next to them do things. Okay. So let's bring the range down on this again and see if we can make out what it's going to be showing us. So we're 10 miles out from Erove. He said, famous last words. Oh, 12.5, sorry. And that's going to be a 10-mile range, isn't it? So it'll be coming into view. Now, here it comes. I want to get a good look at this to see what it's actually going to do with this hold. Otherwise, if it doesn't make sense, I'll just remove the hold. I wasn't expecting it to understand holds, to be honest. That's the sort of, it's the realm of the big jets, that they understand how to enter a hold and the parameters of a hold and so on and so forth. And this hold just came in pre-programmed as part of the approach. So I think, yeah, that's flying over the waypoint and then kind of just doing a loop, which makes no sense at all. Should we go and correct that out of the route? So it's got a hold at. So if we just clear the hold at and execute, it should just make the turn at Erove, shouldn't it? In fact, what it's doing is, I guess, because it's we've still got the hold in there. Clear. No, we don't want to clear. We want to put a Erove back in, but as just a waypoint. We're going to end up going manual at this point, aren't we? Didn't understand that, it took both out. And now I've gone and typed the same letter twice because of this stupid mouse that keeps going wrong. Anyway, Erove, execute. There we go. So I've just removed that looping. It didn't really understand the hold at all, did it? So I've removed it out and we'll just fly in. So actual altitude, we're only about 800 feet, 1,000 feet above the ground, I think. What's the altitude of the airport? 700 feet, so we want to be at about 3,200 really. So we'll come back up to 3,000 and we'll use vertical speed just to get there quickly. We should be changing course anytime soon. So the airplane should turn right. Is it going to? Oh, we're still on heading mode, aren't we? Helps if you stay ahead of the aeroplane. So the glide slope isn't coming down yet, but you can see the localizer is almost in view. I was trying to put us, by coming up to 3,000 feet, we're still a couple of hundred feet underneath the underneath the beam. We got low no fuel transfer. That should be on auto. We never turned the boost pumps off, did we? They don't need to be on. But this auto should, if we override it, will it get rid of those lights? No. Interesting. Maybe that means there's no fuel left to transfer. Again, without proper instructions of the aeroplane, it's difficult to know. But we've got plenty of fuel. Okay, we're on the centre line. So the airport is somewhere out there in front of us. I think that's it in the mist. Here comes the glide slope soon. So we've got approach localizer 1. So we've gone to localizer mode. Here comes the glide slope. Let's see if it works. So let's start reconfiguring the aeroplane and bringing the power down, slowing ourselves down. So there's the runway right in front of us. So let's get the landing lights on. Where are they? Over here. Put the taxi lights on as well. We're going to put the gear down in a moment. Should we go and watch the gear come down? And there goes the lights. So what's that saying? RVS not ready. Descending on the glide slope. I'm not sure what that means without having a book on it. Reverser's not ready. Do we have to arm them? There's a reverse friction lock. But there's nothing beyond that that I can see. Is there anything over here? Or over this side even. So that's to do with the cabin pressurization. Have we got anything to do with the reversers? Yeah, there's obviously, this aeroplane is in need of a proper instruction book, really. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah, you should be running at full RPM on approach. And there we go. That's worth. I might. See, I've been thinking about adding approach notes as well. Should we go back to manual flight now? So I'll press Shift and Space, put ourselves a little bit forward, press Alt and 8 a couple of times, Alt 7, we got head tracking, and let's go and turn off the autopilot, and we have control. Let's give the wings a waggle. There we go. Speed off, bring the flaps down. Going a bit low. There we go. I do like that the fields look rutted up now. This is going to drift, isn't it? Look, it's not losing speed very quickly. Okay, let's go for reverses, see if they work. Very well. And go back to wheel brakes, or toe brakes. And we're just about going to make this exit. And it flaps up. Okay, let's put the parking brake on a second and turn the head tracking off because it's a pain in the backside for this sort of thing. And turn the beacon, no, not beacon light, strobe lights off and landing lights off. I'll get it right eventually. And continue taxiing. Go and park with the other GA aircraft over here. So I wonder if turning off fuel transfer will make the light go away. Because it's basically, I think it's telling us there's no fuel left to transfer over. It's been busy transferring it throughout the flight on whatever automatic schedule it does it on. Well, I know we got a leg missing off the airplane. Oh, there it goes. It just rendered it. Should we go around the back of these? So what have we got parked up here then? What is that? It's a shame that it doesn't render things in. I wonder if they'll fix that to make it render things a bit more quickly. Let's just go over here and park in the empty space. It's our PC-21 in front of us. Anyway. So, to shut the engines down, I guess we can just cut the okay. Turn the lights off. Turn the pitot heat off. That should have come off already, really. And auto. We should have been using auto feather on approach, really. Generators can come off. The avionics can come off, and the battery and the cold and dark. So should we go and see if this various handles work for any aeroplane to go and open things? It'll probably stand me outside, won't it, as soon as I touch the door handle? Can I do this, is the question. Yeah, puts me in walk around mode as soon as I do that. But bizarrely with a shut door. So there's a few bits for them to work on, but there we go. That was good. That was a nice first flight, just to have a look and try things out and see what worked and what didn't, or what we don't understand and what there is still to learn. But there's a lot in the aeroplane. It's very, very good. It's just a shame, isn't it, that the career mode pilot certifications don't test proper procedures, which I think is a huge missed opportunity. Whether they'll bring that in later, I don't know. So Adam's saying, I hope they let us start downloading and installing stuff. Well, there's nothing to stop you putting stuff in community already. If you go and look in your... unless you're on Xbox, I guess. But the packages folder exists in Windows. It's in your user folder. App data, local packages, Microsoft Limitless, local cache packages, and then community. And you can see there's a few things in there I've put in there already. So I've got the Just Flight RJ, and the UniBuilds A300, and the Navigraph bits and bobs. But yeah, so you can put things in the community folder already and they work. Ah, but you're on Xbox, therefore you don't have the community folder, sorry. So, there we go. I'm surprised at just how good this is. Obviously it's it hasn't got the fidelity of, you know, like the black square aircraft, but you're not expecting it because it's given away with the sim. And like I said earlier, there's the accessibility angle. The Carenado will be targeting that everyone has a chance of having some fun with it, rather than it's going to penalise you for stepping out of line and overstressing the flaps or the propellers or whatever it is. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. I'm just going to do a blog post after this with this on it. So if you weren't aware, I have a blog on the internet. It's at johnbeckett.substack.com. And everything I do in the sim goes out on here. And if you subscribe to it, which is free, if you subscribe to the blog, you will get an email whenever I put anything new on the blog. So all the flights I do in the simulator go on here, all of the procedures I write up get announced on here. So yeah, do go and subscribe by email to the blog. It doesn't cost anything, like I said, completely free, and it's an easy way of knowing what I've been covering recently, so you can see me looking at various things just in the last few weeks. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully you enjoyed that, and I'll see you again soon. Take care.